If you have not done so already, check out thebrainosaur.com. That is the site run by both myself and Eric Clancy, my co-host on weekday Warriors of Wrestling, I should say. Check us out down below. The link is in the description box, and yeah, have fun with that. But I have a lot to cover in this particular video because I had one hell of a weekend. Like I said in my previous video, I attended Awesome Con, and I had a blast. I went all 3 days and met a lot of great people, got a lot of great autographs, have a lot of great stories to tell. I spent a lot of money getting all of that, but I've been saving money up for 2 months getting ready for this. So I actually, the money that I budgeted for this, I actually had $25 left over by the time I was done. So I was like, yeah, under budget. All right, cool. But, yeah, a lot of great things happened over the weekend, and I will get into a lot of wrestling-related things. Like, obviously, I've got to talk about the TNA ROH on Destination America situation. That was a huge thing that happened right as I got the note for it, like, right as I was packing, getting ready to go to Awesome Con, and, yeah, I was like, that's pretty big. I'm gonna have a lot to talk about when the next video rolls around. But I'm gonna talk about that. I have to talk about Elimination Chamber and what came of Raw the next night. And obviously I have to do my top 10 favorite matches for the month of May because we are now entering a new month. Welcome to June, everybody. So I've got to get that done as well. But some Awesome Con stuff before I get into that. You know, here's some of the weird trinkets that I bought. I bought beer koozies, Ghostbusters, and Captain America because I like Cap, and Jurassic Park because I'm kind of excited for the new movie. Early buzz is because apparently it's debuted in Paris already, and the early buzz is that the movie is, quote, good, and it's the first worthy sequel to Jurassic Park since, you know, obviously since the original. So that's good. That's some good news. I also got these shot glasses because nothing says getting drunk like DC characters, right? So I got the Joker, I've got Superman, I got, let's see, you get to see all this stuff that I wasted my money on. It's great. I got a Batman shot glass because who doesn't want to get schlocked, you know, and not have Batman on their shot glass? I mean, Batman is delivering me booze. That's pretty awesome. And I got Harley Quinn because Joker needs a friend, so... yeah, I got my shot glass. And I also got this nice little thing because I'm reorganizing my bookshelves, and I wanted a nice display piece to put up top, and I wanted something Godzilla related because I'm a dork like that. And I found this sucker for a relatively cheap price, but this very nice King Ghidorah. It's actually a bank, which is why it's so cheap. It's actually not like a statue or anything, but it's really eye-catching, and it really looks nice. So, yeah, that's going to look good on top of my shelf. Maybe once I've reorganized everything and we're all done, I'll show you what the new shelves look like and everything. But, yeah, but now it's time to some stories of some of the people I met along the way. I went to the Lord of the Rings panel. Sean Astin and John Rhys Davies were there. They were both great, very funny. Obviously, had a lot of love for the movie that the movies that they made, and told a lot of funny stories as well. I did not get to meet John Rhys Davies. I could never time it perfectly to where I could get in a reasonable line or be there at the same time he was there. So I didn't get to meet him, unfortunately. But I did meet Sean Astin. Got that signature, and very cool guy. Very fun to talk to, and I geeked out with him over some of his movies, not just Lord of the Rings, but Goonies and Rudy, and even Encino Man, believe it or not. So I made sure to bring that up. So that was fun. Being a horror movie fan, obviously I was excited to see that Julie Adams was there. She was the lead actress from Creature from the Black Lagoon. Got her autograph and this awesome little picture, and I made sure to tell her that Creature from the Black Lagoon was one of the first monster movies I ever saw, and it's still to this day one of my favorites out of the Universal canon. So to get to meet her was actually pretty cool. She was just a nice, sweet old lady that was very receptive to all the kind things I had to say to her. So that was great. Then I met Ralph Macchio, who you may remember as the Karate Kid, and he signed that picture for me. Again, very nice, very outgoing and friendly guy. And I made sure to tell him I was jealous that he got to kiss Elizabeth Shue in the movie, to which he responded, yeah, that was a pretty good day at the office. I'm like, I know it was, buddy. Good on you for that one. What were some other good ones? I met Jess Harnell, who was the voice of Wacko from Animaniacs. Animaniacs, for my money, is one of the best cartoon shows ever made. I love it to death. And so to get to meet Wacko was actually pretty sweet. And I made sure to thank him for the 50 State Capitals song because it did indeed get me through 4th grade. I definitely needed that song to help me learn state capitals. What are some of the other ones? Oh, here's this goodie. I met several cast members from the movie Clerks. Jason Mewes, who is amazing, by the way. He gave out these posters, these advertisements for his new e-cigarette brand. But I got this picture signed by all the cast members that were there. It was Brian O'Halloran, the actress who played, or the actor who played Dante, that's Brian O'Halloran, and the actress who played his girlfriend, Veronica. They both signed the picture. And I met Jason Mewes, I don't know if you can see that. It'll say Snoogans right there at the top. He made sure to sign it like that. And I have to say, Jason Mewes is amazing in person. He's just, again, very lively and very, very friendly. I was surprised I mean, I guess I sort of expected him to be like Jay, and he kind of was, but he was a lot friendlier, too. So he was kind of like, I mean, he was dropping all the F-bombs and everything. He's like, oh, fucking man, and oh, Dutch rudder this and all that. And he's like, yeah, blowjobs and all that stuff. But very friendly, very outgoing, very awesome to all the people that were in line, and very receptive to all of them. So he was a blast to meet. That one was a major highlight. And then there's this one, which you wrestling fans will appreciate. On Friday, Natalya and Seth Rollins were there. I didn't get to meet them at the autograph booths because they were late getting there. I don't know exactly what the issue was, but I waited in line for a couple hours waiting for them to get there, and they didn't show. They must have been running late or something. But I did arrange an appointment to have my picture taken with both of them. So there's that. That is me with Seth Rollins and Natalya. And again, Natalya is a complete sweetheart in person, and yes, she is absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And she was a blast to meet, very friendly, very nice. Seth was a little bit more reserved, not mean or anything. He was just kind of like, how do I put it? He was, again, I don't want to say he was mean. He was just very kind of more laid back and more like, instead of being more friendly and outgoing, he was more like, oh, cool, man, that's thing. You know, I told him, it was like, oh, congratulations on your big run. He was like, that's cool, man. Yeah, he was just more mellow and laid back, but also very cool. And I appreciate getting my picture taken with both of them. That was great. It was really cool that Seth had the belt there. I was really, really surprised by that. That kind of makes the picture kind of worth it. I've got Natalya hanging off of me, and I've got Seth standing next to me holding the belt. I mean, that's pretty cool. And I also attended the Q&A that they held later that night. And nothing earth-shattering was said, but again, they were very cool and very gracious with all the questions they got asked. And Seth actually had a moment of realization when somebody pointed out to him that he's the first world title winner in WrestleMania history to be younger than WrestleMania itself. And he says, like, wow, that's actually pretty humbling and pretty amazing to think about. I'm the youngest, I'm the first one to win the WWE title at WrestleMania and actually be younger than WrestleMania. That's pretty remarkable. And I don't know, it speaks to the history of WrestleMania that we've gotten to that point where the champions are younger than the event itself. That's how long the history line is and everything. And actually, point of interest, at the Q&A session, there was another special guest there who Seth actually pointed out, and he was like, wow, is that you? Are you the guy? You're the guy. That's him. That's the guy. Mr. Meme, as I will call him, the guy who was wearing the I'm a Paul Heyman guy t-shirt and his eyes bugged out when the Undertaker streak was ended, that guy. He was there, right there in the front row, and I made sure to go up to him afterwards and say hi, and he was, again, very cool guy. Some people asked to take pictures with him to recreate that face, that infamous, face, and he said, I can't do it. I was like, and I even said, it's like, yeah, you'd have to recreate that moment all over again for it to happen. It was such a natural and organic reaction that I'm not surprised that he told people, it's like, no, I really can't reenact that moment. I can't recapture it. But no, he was very nice, and it was cool to chat with him for a minute or two after the event. So that was a little special treat there. And more highlights to come. I met 4 of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and they all signed this picture here. It was Austin St. John, Walter Jones, the Black Ranger, David Yost, the Blue Ranger, and Karen Ashley, who was the second Yellow Ranger. She's not on this picture, but she did sign it. All of them were very nice and very cool, and It's amazing to me how young they all look. I mean, all four of them look almost exactly like they did back in the show, especially Walter Jones. He has not aged at all. I mean, if you remember what Zach looked like in the original show, he looks almost identical except he shaved his head. That's really the only difference. It's like, oh my God, he looks like he's still a teenager with attitude, you know? And I also attended the Q&A session that they held on Sunday, and that was also great. They told a lot of funny stories about their time on the show and how much they enjoyed the fandom and how much, how weird and crazy the show got at times. And obviously the actor who plays Billy talked about, he was asked about coming to terms with his homosexuality and everything, and that was, great humanity there from all four of them, and just a fun time all around. I was glad that I got to meet them. I wish that one day I will meet Jason David Frank, the original Green Ranger. That would kind of complete the set for me. And then there's the Pink Ranger, who was one of my first crushes. I don't know if I want to meet her. That would be kind of weird. But it's like, hey, I had a crush on you. But, whatever. What else happened? What else? Oh, yeah, this. I met William Shatner. That was another. He was the main attraction to this particular con. And, and he signed the picture for me. He was, getting to meet him, I realized, I was like, man, he must do a lot of these conventions because he's got it down to a science. He knew how to say the right amount of stuff to people to keep them satisfied, but keep the line moving because he had a very long line. So, he didn't linger with anybody too long, which I thought was like, wow, he wanted to get through as many people as possible to make sure that as many people got an autograph as, humanly possible and stuff. So, but he talked to me, he said, hi, how you doing? It's great that you came out. He signed the picture for me, and I asked him to sign it, Con. And he was like, oh, I'll write that. Do you want me to put your name on it? And he was like, yeah, that's great. That's great, Bill. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shatner. And he's just a funny character and just really great. And it was cool that I got to meet him. And, one of those fun things. And there was another Star Trek member there, just Star Trek cast member there. I had George Takei sign this picture. They were handing these out. And of all the pictures that were chosen or all the pictures that could be chosen for George Takei to sign, I chose the Big Bang Theory picture because I figured nobody's going to pick that one, and I want to be different. And speaking of being different, I knew that a lot of people were going to ask him about Star Trek, and they were going to ask him about, or if they, if they were getting an autograph, they were going to ask him to sign it. Oh my. And they were going to ask him to do that. And I wanted to be different, which again, why I picked the Big Bang Theory picture. And another thing I wanted to do, and I was like, I don't know if George is going to remember this at all, but I want to do this. It was like, I want to have him sign the picture this way. I wanted him to sign it banana oil. And the reason for that is because George Takei provided one of the dubbed voices, or I assumed he voiced several different characters, but he was one of the cast members for the dubbing of Godzilla Raids Again. So his voice can be heard on the American version of Godzilla Raids Again, otherwise known as Gigantus the Fire Monster here in the States. And one of the most infamously bad lines from that movie, there's a scene where the main character's talking to his girlfriend, and he's supposed to say something within the context of, oh, that's nonsense, or oh, don't be silly, or something like that. And the line that they used in the dubbing is banana oil. It's like, oh, banana oil. And I'm like, and Godzilla fans for years have used that as an example to show how bad the U.S. dubbings have been for the Godzilla movies. And I've often been one that said, come on, they're not all as bad as that. But yeah, banana oil is pretty bad. But it's funny bad. It's one of those like funny little jokes among Godzilla fans. And I don't know if George Takei actually said the line himself, but I knew he was in the cast for that movie, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to ask him to sign it banana oil, and I hope to God he remembers it, because if he doesn't, I'm going to look like a fool. And I talked to him, and he was very generous, very sweet, just a very nice man, very nice, well-meaning, good-natured human being. And I shook his hand, I talked to him, I was like, Mr. Takei, I'm a big Godzilla fan. If you could sign it to Patrick, banana oil, I would really appreciate it. And George Takei started laughing. He was like, you remember banana oil. And I'm like, yes, I do, Mr. Takei, and I'm really glad that you do. It's like, banana oil. That was a funny line. I'm like, yes, it was, sir. Yes, it was. And I was so happy he remembered it. And I didn't look like a complete tool. And I guarantee I'm the only one that asked him about it the entire weekend. So there's my funny George Takei story. And again, if you have the chance to go to a con and meet George Takei, I highly recommend it. Because A, he's very nice, and B, he's hilarious. So that was a great memory. But the main highlight of the entire weekend was getting to meet all 4 voice actors that played the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was very, very good. I should also note, as far as voice actors go, I also met Jim Cummings, and he signed a Darkwing Duck picture for me, but I gave that to my brother because he's a big Disney fan, so I thought my brother would appreciate that. But Jim Cummings was also very cool, and he did a lot of voices, and I told him that Don Carnage from Tailspin was my favorite voice that he did. So anyway, where am I going with this? Anyway, yes, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I met all 4 of the original voice actors that played the Turtles. I also met the actress, Judith Hoag. She played April O'Neil in the first live-action movie, so I got to meet her as well. And she was a complete sweetheart, and she actually still looks good. Believe it or not. It's like, yeah, she actually looks pretty good. But, yeah, she was very nice and very sweet. But getting to meet all 4 of the voice actors that played the Turtles it was like getting to meet your heroes. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And I was very fortunate with all 4 of them. I managed to catch them all at times when their lines weren't very long, so there was nobody behind me, so I was actually able to chat with them for a few minutes. And all 4 of them were very nice, very sweet, and I made sure to bring up some other things as well. Like Rob Paulson, who was Raphael, I made sure to tell him, it's great that you're playing Donnie now, because Donatello was always my favorite. I'll come back to that in a second. Donnie was always my favorite, so it's great that you're playing him. And I also joked, it's like, well, in future reboots, you've got to keep doing this so that you can play Michelangelo and Leonardo, and that way you can say you've played all 4 Turtles. He's like, yeah, if I live to be 100, I can pull that one off. But, yeah, we talked about Pinky and the Brain. We talked about Animaniacs. He asked me if I liked the new Ninja Turtle show and what I thought of it. So he was just really cool. Rob Paulson, again, very sweet guy. Very nice, very sweet. And, just very, very cool. And I met Cam Clark, who was the voice of Leonardo. And I'd forgotten about this. This didn't click in my brain, but one of the pictures that was there at his booth was of He-Man. And I'd forgotten. It's like, oh my God, that's right. He played He-Man in the 2002 show. So I geeked out with him a little bit over that, and he did the He-Man voice for me. And I'm like, oh, you just made my day, sir. It was like, oh God. And he was, it's really funny because you don't expect the voice of Leonardo to be a really funny guy, because Leonardo, even in the original show, which was goofy, he was very straight-laced and kind of no-nonsense. He was the leader type. So, but I'll say this, between the panel and meeting him at the booth, he was the funniest of the 4. He was like the silliest and the most cartoonish, I'll say. So, yeah, Cam Clark, really cool guy. Really loved him. And, again, it was very cool that he did the He-Man voice for me, because that was, I'm a big He-Man fan, too, so that was really cool as well. And I met Townsend Coleman, who was very personable, very sweet. I won't go into specifics of what we talked about because it did get a little personal, but he did something very cool and very awesome that was just really sweet of him to do, and just really nice. And of course, he did the Mikey voice for everyone that asked. And it's really funny to hear the Michelangelo voice come out of a guy with graying hair and everything. But yeah, very sweet man, and I was very appreciative of his time and what he did. But yeah, he was very sweet. But finally, let me come to Barry Gordon, who was the original voice of Donatello, who, as I've already stated, was my favorite turtle. And I walked up to the booth, and keep in mind, I've already told you, I met William Shatner, I met George Takei, I met Jason Mewes, I met Rob Paulson, who's a prolific voice actor, I met Jim Cummings, who's a prolific voice actor, I met all these guys, all these big names, and all these like really big figures that I've been huge fans of for years. Barry Gordon, the original voice of Donatello, was the one guy that I was kind of starstruck for. And it was the weirdest thing. I was so nervous going up there. I was like, because what do you say? I was like, hi, Donnie was my favorite. Everybody else I was totally chill with, totally cool with. I met the current WWE champion, and Natalya, who I've said on this video channel constantly that she is hot as hell and just completely gorgeous. I was completely fine with her. I was fine with Seth. I was fine with everybody. But Barry Gordon, the original voice of Donatello, I was kind of like, I reverted back to being a shy little 5-year-old. I was like, hi, sir, thank you. Donnie was my favorite. And thank God he was nice, because that could have been really embarrassing if he wasn't. But I got a little starstruck, I'm not going to lie, talking to Donnie. But it was great to get to tell him. It was like, Donatello was always my favorite, and it's really great to get to meet you. And it's really a major highlight for me, so thank you. And he was very nice, very sweet, and that's a fond memory that I always have. And again, the fact that I got all 4 of them to sign this picture, and April too. I made sure to get April to sign it. That was a huge, it really was the icing on the cake of what was a really fun weekend. And then I went to the panel for the Ninja Turtles on Sunday, and they were terrific. They were just great. And they were just funny. They sang the theme song at one point. I mean, that's just nuts. And a lot of funny stories. Cam Clark mentioned Denver the Last Dinosaur at one point, and everybody applauded. And he was like, you all remember Denver the Last Dinosaur? And we're like, yeah! Best theme song ever! Denver the Last Dinosaur. Anyway, done with that. But, yeah, that was really the main highlight for me this weekend. With the, I did get to meet the current WWE champion. I got a really funny experience with George Takei, but really meeting the Ninja Turtles, that was the main highlight for me, and it was a huge blast. And really, it was just an outstanding weekend, and I loved it. And if you attended AwesomeCon as well, I hope you all had as much fun as I did, because I had a complete, great, wonderful time. And with that, let's hop right into the wrestling discussions. Something big kind of happened last week. Destination America announced that they will be airing Ring of Honor on their network. Apparently, these are the same shows, same episodes that are airing in syndication in various local markets. So those shows are going to be getting a national exposure now through Destination America, and it will be the lead-in show to TNA on Wednesday nights. That's big. Kind of broke the internet, at least in terms of the wrestling community anyway. Man, I'm not even sure where to start with it. I mean, that might be the biggest middle finger I've ever seen a network give a wrestling company, where they're like, yeah, we're going to put another wrestling show on right before you. Fuck you, TNA. I'm happy for Ring of Honor. I think that's very cool, and I'm all for more wrestling shows getting more exposure and everything. And yeah, I think it's great for them. I'm definitely going to watch it, because I have not been able to watch the weekly Ring of Honor shows because it's A, I don't have time, B, I don't have access to it, at least through my television provider. So it's a little trickier to watch. So now that I have access to it, I will watch it. So that's awesome. As far as TNA goes, I mean, it's like, this really does fuel the rumors that they're going to get canned in September. I mean, I can't imagine they're going to be sticking around. I don't know. I mean, if Destination America wants to have multiple wrestling shows and they want to, eventually get to a point where they want to cross-promote or whatever, I mean, that's really cool. That's great, but I don't see that being the end game. I don't know. It just seems like TNA is going to be out the door and left out the cold sooner or later. It's really weird because Ring of Honor, if you look at their roster, they're looking more like TNA than TNA does right now, because they've got Daniels, they've got Kazarian, they've got Sabin, they've got AJ Styles making special appearances through New Japan and everything. So it's like, it's almost like Ring of Honor's more like, they just had Samoa Joe, obviously. I mean, I know Joe's more known for his Ring of Honor run anyway, but it is kind of odd how they've kind of looked more like classic TNA than TNA does at this point. I don't. I was like, I mean, what else is there to really say? I mean, TNA. I mean, they've kind of made bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, and it is what it is. And if Destination America wants wrestling on their network for a cheaper price, because apparently they will have to put no money into Ring of Honor, because they're just going to be airing the already produced and taped episodes. So it looks like TNA might be done, and I can't imagine if Destination America doesn't want you, which I don't know about you. I was shocked when I found out that I have Destination America on my cable provider. I guarantee you most households don't have it. It's not a very common channel, so if they don't want you, I don't know what to say. I mean, you just kind of shrug your shoulders and go, I mean, if this is the end for TNA, I guess we'll find out in September. But that did not look. It doesn't look very hopeful for them, quite honestly. And it's like I said, it's just one long string of bad decisions, one after the other, and I don't want TNA to die. I think that'd be a bad thing. It's less places to work, but bad decisions lead you down a bad road, unfortunately, and that's kind of where they are right now. Now, unfortunately, I don't think Ring of Honor is exactly the hottest wrestling promotion in the world right now either. I mean, really, part of me was like, if we're going to get to like a TNA Ring of Honor cross-promotional thing with this, which would be cool if they did that, but if we go down that road with it, I'd have been like, that would have been cool like 10 years ago. Like when, like back at, like, could you imagine like 05 Ring of Honor going up against like 05, 06 TNA? I mean, come on, that would have been fantastic. But this is just like, Ring of Honor's not bad, but they're nowhere near as good as they used to be. And TNA, they're definitely not as good as they used to be. I mean, I don't think anybody, even like the staunchest TNA defender, will say that they're as good now as they were back in 06. I don't think anybody would say that. So, it'll be interesting. The next few months should be very, very, very interesting. And I'm looking forward to seeing the Ring of Honor show. Like I said, I'm definitely going to watch it. Wednesday has turned into wrestling night, has it not? Got Ring of Honor, and you got TNA for now on Destination America. You've got NXT on the WWE Network, and if you have the El Rey Network, you get Lucha Underground, which I still think is the best show of the bunch, which they did something very bizarre on at the ending of last week's episode. I won't spoil it, but they did something really, really out there that really actually, I think they're the only wrestling show on the planet that could pull it off. That's how good Lucha Underground is at doing all the things that they do. They have their own unique style and presentation. It allows them to get away with certain things that no other wrestling show can get away with. Also, they reintroduced Mil Muertes, and he's awesome, as usual. If anything, he's gotten even cooler, and he's just a total psycho killer now, and it's great. He powerbombed Fenix through, like, the fucking staging area, and it looked sick as hell. So, really cool to have Muertes back. But, yeah, Wednesday nights, it's really turning into wrestling night, and I'm really excited for it. It's really cool. So, if you're a wrestling fan, if you want shows to watch, you got a lot of really good ones on Wednesday, so be sure to check those out. But as far as TNA's future on Destination America, I don't know. To me, if you had to ask me right now, I'd say enjoy it while it lasts, because by September you probably won't have it anymore. And now it's time to talk some WWE. They had a pay-per-view on Sunday. They followed it up with Raw the next night. So I've got plenty to talk about in regards to the WWE. And I will say, they've got way too many shows. They've just got way too much content to fill. But I mean, between 3-hour Raws, 2-hour SmackDowns, a pay-per-view every 2 weeks now. We're at that point where they're literally having a pay-per-view every 2 weeks. It's just too much content to fill, and they burn through all the stories quickly, and some of the characters wind up switching back heel and face, so with little to no explanation. The Bellas are heels again. How did we get to that point? I don't know. Mark Henry turned heel. Oop, must be that time of the year. And he's another one of those guys that's turned heel and face so many times that I don't even care anymore. And it's always funny because Lex Luger was always the one that had that joke thrown at him. And I'm like, dude, Big Show, Kane, and Mark Henry have got him beat, hands down. Luger shouldn't even be the butt of that joke anymore, in my eyes. He was tame compared to what we've got with Big Show, Mark Henry, and Kane. And Kane has actually had some consistency for a little bit. But Mark Henry and Big Show, I mean, my God. Jesus Christ. But the stories are getting muddled. They're doing way too many rematches and all these other stuff, and it's really the big problem is that there's just too much content, and they're having a harder and harder time filling all of that content. And it's NXT is its own separate thing. Although, actually they've been breaking out on a Raw and they've been doing really well. Obviously, more on that later. But I'm not even saying Elimination Chamber was a bad show or anything. I'm just saying it's easy to get burnt out on the WWE product because there's just so much content to keep up with on the main show, and so much wrestling content that it's like, guys, you can scale back a little bit. It's fine, you know? You don't have to have a pay-per-view every 2 weeks. It's crazy. But I thought Raw last night was exceedingly boring. Like, really boring, because the main story of the night was Roman Reigns having all these matches, and if he lost any of the matches, he would be eliminated from Money in the Bank. And I'm like, we all knew he was going to win those matches, and so there was no real drama there. It's like, we know. He's probably going to win the Money in the Bank, barring something crazy happening. He's the number one pick to win it, so I knew he wasn't going to lose. And like I said, the Bellas turned heel, yawn. Mark Henry turned heel, yawn. Just a bunch of screwy things going on. And it was just a really, really dull, boring show. The only highlights of the show for me were Seth Rollins in the opening segment. He was terrific. And Kevin Owens, his promo on Cena. Although Cena's follow-up promo was absolutely terrible, because it made him look like a sore loser and a jerk, and every bit the corporate shill that Kevin Owens accused Cena of being. It's like, I'm not a corporate shill. Oh, hey, there's a kid with cancer. You're awesome. And I'm like, oh, not that, you know, again, this is more directed at the John Cena character, not the man John Cena. It's just that the character comes across like a complete and utter fucking shill. And like I said, in that segment, he was like, you beat me, but you don't deserve to have this belt. I was going to give it to you, but you don't deserve to have that belt. You don't deserve to have that belt either. I'm like, fuck you, dude. First of all, I don't believe for a second that asshole was going to give that belt up. And second of all, just fuck you. He's like, oh, he doesn't deserve to be champion. Fuck you. He fucking beat your ass, you piece of shit. But again, I'm talking about the characters here. And really, I made this point. I just reread All-Star Superman last week, and I was like, you know, I get a little offended when people call John Cena Superman, because I'm like, Superman was believable when written well and presented well, the way he should be. Superman is believably righteous and is the ultimate symbol of hope. And again, when done right, is unquestionably honorable and good and everything that is righteous and just. John Cena's not that. The John Cena character he's a fucking shill. I mean, that's the WWE marketing machine. Yeah, he's the representation of the WWE marketing machine. He's nothing but corporate. That's all he is. And that promo he cut last night did nothing to, you know, convince me otherwise. But in any case, it makes me view Kevin Owens as the babyface. You know, which is weird, because in NXT he's a total asshole. He's like, oh, you beat up your friend to get a title? Fuck you, dude. But yeah, I guess it's like magic. You know, you put somebody up against John Cena, that guy automatically becomes the babyface, because John Cena's a phony piece of shit. And that's the nature of the character. And that's the way he's been written and presented. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Raw. But talk about Elimination Chamber. Like I said, it's easy to get burnt out on these pay-per-views because there's just so many of them. And I'm not going to say that Elimination Chamber was a bad show. I'm just saying it kind of went in one ear and out the other for the most part, except for one match, and you know what match I'm going to talk about, and I am going to talk about it and praise the hell out of it. But for the most part, it's just like it was just another 3 hours of WWE programming. But let's start off. We had the first Elimination Chamber match for the tag titles to kick the show off. Like I said when I talked about the show in previous videos, I like that they gave the Elimination Chamber match to the tag titles to kind of let the division shine a little bit and kind of do something different for the Elimination Chamber that hadn't been done before. So it's like, all right, that's a fresh idea at least. The match itself, a little clusterfucky, a little spot festy, but yeah, I kind of expected that when you have 12 guys in well, actually 14 if you count El Torito and Xavier Woods. So you had 14 guys crammed into this match. So it was a little crazy. The Ascension looked good. They looked dominant anyway. They were booked to be dominant, but then they got eliminated. It was kind of anticlimactic. It was like, okay, whatever. And then Kid and Cesaro got eliminated in a little anticlimactic fashion. It was like, eh. And then the Primetime Players just got beat. And it was like, okay, whatever. And I guess it makes sense since it's a no DQ match, so Xavier Woods was able to kind of get himself in there and help out. So it's like, I don't know. It was fun. It had some cool spots and everything, but it wasn't like, it's kind of like, I throw it in the same vein of like some of the Ultimate X matches and like the X Division spot festy matches, or like the 10-man ladder matches, or those type of, or 3-man tags, 4-man tags, those same thing, those multi-man matches where it's really just all about whatever fancy spots they cook up to make it work, and that's it's more along the lines of that. And for that, I guess it was all right. Then we had, what was the second match? I don't even remember. Fuck, I don't even remember what the... See, I saw the show 2 nights ago. I've already forgotten what was even on it. Yeah, wow, that's crazy. I don't remember what the next match was. Was it the Divas match? Yes, it was. Yes, it was the Divas match. Triple threat title match. It was Nikki Bella defending against Paige and Naomi. Whatever. I mean, the Divas, unfortunately, are kind of marred by bad booking, as I've already highlighted by talking about the fact that the Bellas have turned heel again with no explanation. I mean, they are the most inconsistent characters in wrestling. It's is Nikki going to turn on Brie again and say that she wished she died in the womb and call her a bitch or whatever? I mean, is that going to be... I don't know anymore. I trying to make sense out of it is just going to hurt my head, but... whatever. The match was whatever. But, I'm going to skip the next match and save it for last because, save the best for last. The fourth match on the show was Adrian Neville versus Bo Dallas. Whatever. It was forgettable. I like the idea for the feud. I like that they actually gave them a somewhat of a feud and even referenced their NXT history a little bit in the build-up. But this was just on the pay-per-view to fill time. Then we got the IC title chamber match. It was Ryback, Mark Henry, Sheamus, Wade Barrett. I don't even remember everybody that was in it. I'm not even going to try. Forget. That's right. Rusev got hurt. And was Sheamus' replacement? I thought no. Ziggler was in the match. I remember that. I don't even... Mark Henry... That's right. Mark Henry was Rusev's replacement. Okay. Anyway, it doesn't matter because this match was fucking terrible. I mean, this was awful. This match was awful. There were so many awkward moments, like Sheamus not being able to get out of his pod, and I don't know if that was planned or not. I assumed it wasn't. But whether it was planned or not, it doesn't really matter because it just came off as really, really awkward. It didn't come off as, like, part of the story. It came off like they fucked up, and that's not a good thing. Then you have Mark Henry got broken out of his pod early, and it was like, all right, that kind of fucked things up a little bit. And then, nothing really interesting happened. A lot of I don't even remember, like, how anybody got eliminated because they were so unremarkable. And then Ryback and Sheamus closed it out, and they had kind of a botchy, not very good closing sequence. So this is one of the worst chamber matches I've ever seen, quite honestly. It's this and December to Dismember. And the December to Dismember one was bad because they took the 2 fan favorites, Rob Van Dam and CM Punk, and eliminated them, like, fairly early, and everybody just revolted. It was like the precursor to the modern day Royal Rumbles. But Ryback won. Whatever. I don't really care one way or the other. The match was terrible though. It was not. It's like some things went wrong and that were outside of the guy's control. But it was still a very sloppy, very awkward match, and didn't come off very well. And then we got the main event, Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins. Okay match. Not as good as some of their previous matches. But I like the ending. I'll say that. I actually thought the ending was kind of cool where Seth Rollins playing the Weasel heel was able to sneak away with the title even without having anybody pull any strings. It was just the referee disqualifying him and overruling the replacement ref, which I could buy that. It was like, okay, fine. The whole bit with Ambrose stealing the belt and walking... Okay, again, correction. He stole the belt. He didn't steal the title. And I'm going to elaborate on that in a minute once again because I feel like I have to make that point. That was kind of cool and everything. I'm not happy that they're doing a rematch so soon with only 2 weeks of build. Like I said, I probably wouldn't do another rematch until about WrestleMania time. I've already said it's like they could do this whole angle where Ambrose stole the belt and then Seth hires a muscle to get the belt from him and Ambrose can feud with him because Seth is still the champion. I mean, he didn't lose the title. Dean did not steal the title. The title is still Seth's because Seth is still the champion. The belt is the artifact that represents that represents the title. It's not the title itself. So really the Authority, I mean, Dean Ambrose really has no leverage over the Authority. All they have to do really is make a new belt. He doesn't, but at the same time, Dean is justifiable in his anger. It's like, look, I won the fucking belt, which was very shocking and actually really cool. I legit jumped out of my chair. I was like, Dean just won the belt? What the fuck? And then I saw where they were going with it. I was like, oh, okay, all right, never mind. But again, I like the ending. I just, it plays in that whole if you steal the belt, you steal the title. I'm like, no, you didn't. The title and the belt are not necessarily the same thing. But in any case, I'm like I said, I'm not a fan of them doing a rematch so soon at Money in the Bank. I would have preferred it to again go with my idea. Seth hires a muscle. They feud with Dean. Let's say this guy, whoever it is, gets the belt back from Dean, gives it back to Seth, and then Dean continues feuding with that guy for a while, and that keeps Dean busy. Roman Reigns wins the Money in the Bank. Dean ultimately wins Royal Rumble, and then you set up the Shield triple threat. And then by the time you get to WrestleMania with the Shield triple threat, you have the history and the backstory from them all being the Shield and Seth destroying the faction and everything. You have the context because... both guys have legitimate claims to the title. Dean would have won the Royal Rumble. Roman Reigns wins Money in the Bank. And you have the significance there because both guys would have been put on a journey with the starting point being when Seth screwed them out of the title in some way, shape, or form. Obviously, Seth stole the title from Roman at WrestleMania, and then Dean Ambrose won the title but then had it taken away from him. So, both guys would have Seth in their crosshairs or something. And that's something I think they could have built all the way to Mania and do that Shield triple threat. But, that's just me and my long-term thinking. And they only have 2 weeks to put pay-per-views together now. So what are you going to do? I think, personally, the Money in the Bank ladder match is a perfectly fine main event on its own. You don't need to have another world title match in 2 weeks. But, again, that's just me. I think the world title means more if it's defended less. I've made that point millions and millions of times. Millions and millions of dollars. But in any case, it is what it is. The main event was all right. Ending was cool. I think it could be used to set up bigger and better things, but they don't seem to be interested in doing that. So, whatever. Now the thing that anybody who saw Elimination Chamber is definitely talking about, and that is the John Cena versus Kevin Owens match, which was absolutely terrific. Great match, very exciting, very good, just fresh outing. My one nitpick, and I want to get the nitpicky shit out of the way first. I didn't like that the finish was just the second pop-up powerbomb. I would have liked it if, Cena and Owens hit they hit their finishers on each other and they kicked out. So I would have liked it if Owens had beat him on the senton splash or the that twisting superplex that he did and all the one of those really big moves, because I've talked about it before. So many times you see these really big, awesome, cool moves happen that never end matches. So it kind of renders those moves meaningless. It's like you're kind of conditioned to only expect a pinfall when the finishers are hit, and I'm not a fan of that. And I felt like especially that twisting superplex thing, I was like, that could have been the finish. I would have bought that as the finish, no question. And it would have been something that was, Owens would have had to pull out of his deep resources of his repertoire, because the pop-up powerbomb didn't work. And by the way, please start calling it the Lights Out. I don't like that name, pop-up powerbomb, because it sounds adorable. It sounds cutesy, and I don't know, that's just me. But for a while they were calling it the Lights Out, and I was like, that sounds so much better, but okay. In any case, so there was that. But other than that, I thought the match was terrific. I thought it was very exciting. I was very happy for Owens that he was able to go in there and mesh pretty well with Cena, because that was one of the things I was worried about, is that, he doesn't have a great size advantage on the main WWE roster. He does in NXT and he did in Ring of Honor, but he doesn't really have that on the main WWE roster, so that's going to be lost. So how's he going to handle himself when he doesn't have that obvious size advantage? And I thought he did really well. I thought he, matched Cena, matched his pace all the way through. I thought they went out there and had a very exciting match, and it's a very fresh pairing that's the most interesting thing on the show right now. And of course, like I said, I view Owens as kind of the babyface anyway because Cena's a fucking shill. But in any case, I'm not happy that they're doing a rematch in 2 weeks. I would have held off on that until WrestleMania, or at least until SummerSlam. I mean, get some mileage out of this, man. Don't burn through everything so quickly. And it's like, even if Owens wins in 2 weeks, which I'm not going to hold my breath, but where was I going with this? Even if Owens wins in 2 weeks, it's still kind of like, you don't need to pile them all on top of each other so quickly. You can, it's okay to give the story time to breathe and then do the rematch when it's the right time to do the rematch. This just feels too quick. But again, they've got too much programming to film, so what are you going to do? But yeah, I mean, this was unlike the Rusev matches that Cena had, where I could tell you exactly how they were going to play out. Even when Rusev beat him at Fastlane, I'm like, I know Rusev's going to win, and then Cena's going to beat him at Mania, and then win all the rematches. And I pretty much called that step for step how that was going to go. But here, I didn't know exactly what they were going to do, so that made it more exciting. And it's a fresh pairing. It's Kevin Owens' debut in the WWE. I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. And it was very exciting, very good, action-packed, great match. Easily the best match on this show. I mean, that wasn't a hard contest to win, but it was one of the best matches of the month, which, by the way, I'm going to get to my top 10 favorite matches for the month of May. That is coming up next. And yes, this match is on there. But yeah, it was a terrific match, very exciting. I'm really liking the Cena-Owens program, even though, like I said, if you view Cena as the heel, it works out tremendously. But yeah, I thought they just went out there and had a great match. It was very exciting, very good, and kind of made the show worth it. I said if I had to rank Elimination Chamber out of 10, I'd say the Cena-Owens match was good enough to get it at least 5 points out of 10. I mean, and then maybe an additional point for the ending to the main event or something, or maybe a spot or two in the tag match. So, okay. So, yeah, not a terrible show, but it was really that one match that really kind of made the show worth watching. So, whatever. But yeah, I do want to put over that match, though, because it was terrific. It was great. And it was one of the better matches I saw this month, as I'm going to talk about right now. And finally, let's close things up with my top 10 favorite matches from the month of May 2015, as well as my pick for Brand of the Month. Starting at number 10, we have Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins in the match where if Dean wins, he would get added to the Payback main event. This was from the May 5th episode of Monday Night Raw. I talked about how the Elimination Chamber, or the match they had at Elimination Chamber, wasn't as good as some of their previous matches. This is one of the matches I thought was one of their better ones. I thought Ambrose and Rollins had a really exciting match, and Ambrose winning was actually kind of a legitimate surprise, because Ambrose hadn't really been doing anything storyline-wise, so I didn't expect... I didn't expect him to win. I thought it was just going to be used as a tool to add friction between Kane and Seth Rollins, but no. Ambrose got the win, and in the end, it was a very exciting match, very fun match to watch, and got Dean back into a relevant role on the show overall. So it's actually been beneficial for Dean thus far, anyway. We'll see what happens once he's wrapped up with Rollins and see if he goes back into obscurity or if they actually do have some kind of a plan for him. Because, as I keep saying, Shield triple threat at Mania, you can do it. It'd be great. But that was that. Then we have number 9, a Lucha Underground match, because I cannot stop sucking up to them. I'm sorry, I'm pulling up the list here on my computer. Okay. Son of Havoc, Ivelisse, and Angelico defending their Trios Championships against The Crew in a ladder match. This was from the May 20th episode of Lucha Underground. Not as good or as dramatic as the ending to the initial Trios title tournament that they had, but it was still a really fun, really good ladder match, and had a very focused story. Again, this wasn't just 6 people crammed into a ladder match for the hell of it. It was 2 3-man teams, so the story had a little bit more focus to it. And Angelico did another insane spot where he did the flying drop kick off the top of the office. I'm like, that dude's fucking crazy to keep doing stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, not as good as their previous match, but still a very exciting one and still very good, and a definite worthwhile main event for Lucha Underground. Next on the list, we have one of the matches from the John Cena U.S. Title Open, which I've praised as being one of my favorite things on Raw lately. because it creates fresh matches, and it not their intention, but it paints Cena as the heel. So the more he wins, the more it makes me hate him, and the more it makes me hate him, the more interested I am in seeing somebody beat him. So it actually makes the story work. At least that's how it works for me anyway. I can't speak for everybody else, but one of those matches, it was John Cena versus Sami Zayn from the May 5th episode of Raw. Same episode as the Ambrose Rollins match. Again, it was a nice surprise to see Sami Zayn come out. And although this was the match where apparently Sami suffered his injury, which is looking more and more like it wasn't a work, like I had originally postulated. But yeah, I thought the match was very exciting and very good. Again, it was just really cool to see Sami go out there and just have a really good match with the top brass in the WWE, and I was really pulling for him to win it. I was like, oh, come on, Sami, win it. Win one for the Gipper. And, yeah, it was just a really exciting match. Of course, Cena won because you got to milk this U.S. Open Challenge thing for as long as you can. But, again, it was a very exciting match. It's nice to see the NXT brand being represented well on WWE's main programming. Next, we had a match from Ring of Honor and New Japan's Global Wars show, Kazuchika Okada versus Cedric Alexander. This was my favorite match from this show. I know the main event was like this wacky, spot-festy, pinball match, but this one was more, again, it was more focused. It was more of a consistently exciting athletic contest being put on display between Okada and Alexander. And Okada, I mean, I love the dude's work. I just love the way the guy works. And the more I see from him, the more impressed I am. And Cedric Alexander's proven himself to be a really good athlete. And this was the match where the lights went out in the middle of it. And normally, and I talked about it with the Elimination Chamber match, the IC title one, where things go wrong, it can be really awkward and kind of throw everybody out of whack, which I think it did in that match. In this match, this is where the lights went out in the middle of the match, and I don't know, they didn't let it fluster them. They kind of played with it. Okada gave this really funny reaction when the lights came back on. It just came across as more natural, and they didn't act like it was a big fuck up. And actually, it was a nice little human touch that kind of made the match more memorable in a way. And, speaking of making the match memorable, we got touches of Cedric Alexander's sour attitude after he lost. So there was actually some character development there as well. So it wasn't just, two baby faces going out there and, just doing a bunch of spots to each other. It's like, no, they went out. The result actually had a negative impact on the loser. And he, he showed his frustration. And it was like, oh, there's actual character development here, in addition to being a great match. So, yeah, kudos to both men in that case. That was a very good one. Then we have number 6, which was Fenix versus Mil Muertes in a death match from the May 27th episode of Lucha Underground. I've put over their Grave Consequences match from back in March. I believe that was March 18th was when they did that match. It's the best, in my opinion, it's my favorite match that Lucha Underground's done so far. This match did not live up to it, but it was still very, very cool, where again, it reestablished Mil Muertes as this unstoppable monster as he just tore through Fenix and beat the ever-living crap out of him. And it was, once again, just another hard-hitting, action-packed, fun match to watch, while at the same time giving a new presentation of Muertes and hopefully taking his character into a new direction that's very exciting and very good, because he's right back to being an unstoppable monster again. So there's lots of things they could do with that. I mean, speaking of things you want to do with a monster, I mean, Prince Puma's going to need some opponents, right? They could do that down the road. That'd be cool. Number 5, Tyson Kidd and Cesaro versus The New Day in a 2 out of 3 falls match for the WWE Tag Titles. This was from Payback. I put this match over pretty heavily. I thought that Tyson Kidd and Cesaro in The New Day had the match of the night at Extreme Rules, and I thought they did the same thing here at Payback, only even better. I thought this match was terrific. I thought they had a stellar match. It was a great, well-worked, action-packed tag title match, and it was everything I love about tag team wrestling, and even the little nuances, the way double teams are done, and the way the rules of the match are used to people's advantage. It wasn't just straight up, like the Young Bucks tend to do, where they just go out there and just basically have a little mini battle royal. And tagging, what's that? Who does that anymore? They didn't do that here, though. It was just a very well-worked, very exciting tag team match. And, I have to say it. Tyson Kidd and Cesaro, they're great workers, so they work in pretty much any role they're given, they can make it work because they're such great workers that they can just naturally make it work. And the New Day, they work so much better as heels, and that really makes their matches better because before, when they were faces, their matches sucked because nobody liked them. Now that they're heels, it allows them to break out of the shell a little bit more and be a little bit more entertaining, and the gimmick becomes more natural to accept, and it makes their matches better. And overall, I thought both teams went out there and had a hell of a match. It was a 2 out of 3 falls match. There was a good old school flavor to it, and I really enjoyed it. And I just thought it was great. It was definitely my favorite tag match of the month. We'll definitely say that. And moving right along, we've got number 4, another John Cena U.S. title open challenge. John Cena versus Adrian Neville from the May 11th episode of Monday Night Raw. This one was very exciting because it actually looked like Neville was going to win. Again, it's the same thing. You want Cena to lose, at least I do, and that's why the story works for me. And as the match progressed more and more, it looked like Neville was actually going to win, and he actually had Cena beat up until Rusev caused the disqualification. I thought when he hit that red arrow, I was like, oh my God, is he going to win? And it looked like he was going to. I'm glad they didn't have Cena kick out of the red arrow because that would have spoiled the effect a little bit. But, yeah, I'd like to see this match again. I mean, given the way the match ended, you would think that Cena would give Neville a rematch. You'd think, right? If he's so honorable, if the character wants to give everybody a chance or whatever, and he's a good guy and all that other crap, you'd think that Neville would be in line to get a rematch for the U.S. title. But whatever. But yeah, I thought Cena and Neville had a hell of a match. It was a very good encounter, and just more evidence as to why the U.S. Open Challenge that Cena's doing is a really exciting part of the show. For a show that's really not that exciting, I mean, that part of it is really, really good. It makes the U.S. title matter more. It's an effective way to use Cena, especially in the way, utilizing the aspect that he wins all the goddamn time. And it creates fresh matches, and whoever eventually beats Cena, it's going to be a big deal. So, I thought this match was very exciting. Then number 3, it's another Lucha Underground match. Johnny Mundo versus Alberto El Patron from the, from the 5-6 episode, the May 6th edition of Lucha Underground. These guys are WWE pickups. They're in a new show, a new brand. And normally when that happens, there's fear that, they're going to half-ass it, or they're going to, not try as hard as some of the younger guys, or they're going to take spots away from the younger guys, or, all sorts of things. Johnny Mundo and Alberto went out there and had one hell of a match. I mean, outstanding main event match for the show. And it really showed, it's like, well, yeah, they're not half-assing it. They deserve that main event spot if they keep putting on performances like that. And I was never a huge fan of Alberto Del Rio in WWE. And very rarely did his matches ever grab me or do anything for me. But this match was very, very good and just really exciting. And as it turns out, ended up being the genesis of a big part of the storyline as the future episodes played out. So, again, they got character development out of it. They got storyline development out of it. So it wasn't just a throwaway main event just for the sake of having the two biggest names they have wrestle each other. It was actually there was actually a point to it. So, I thought Mundo and El Patron went out there and had a hell of a match. It was a great, just a great match. That's really all there is to say about it. I just really loved it, and the stuff that came out of it afterwards made it even better. Then number 2, it's another John Cena match. Go figure. 3 John Cena matches on one top 10 list. It must be a sign of the apocalypse. The world is over. And I have to say, this is probably the most WWE heavy top 10 list I've done ever since I started doing this. So it's like, that's 2 crazy things going on. But John Cena versus Kevin Owens from Elimination Chamber, the champion versus champion match, held on the last day of the month. So they just snuck that one in there, and it was number 2 on the list. So I already put the match over. I reviewed it in this very same video. It was terrific. It was great. Owens winning was outstanding and really a nice surprise, and really, in my opinion, the right decision to go with. And it was great to see Owens go out there and just mesh well with one of the WWE's top stars. And it's really the only reason to go out of your way to watch Elimination Chamber, in my opinion. But Yeah, very exciting match. I don't want to talk too much about it because I've already talked about it on the same video. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a very good match, and it's my pick for number 2. But my pick for number 1, Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch for the NXT Women's title from NXT's big takeover special, Unstoppable. Many people have put this match over, and rightfully so. For the people that say that women's wrestling can't be entertaining and women's wrestling isn't a very interesting part of the show, or the girls can't deliver the goods, go watch this match, and I dare you to tell that to me, because this match was incredible. Incredible match. And it just goes to show the differences between the main WWE show and what they're doing on NXT with the women, because it's like night and day. And really what it comes down to is that they're written better, they're presented better, and when it comes time to do the match, they deliver. As opposed to the girls on the main programming where the stories suck, the characters suck, and they do the same match week after week after week anyway, so you get sick of seeing it. So there's no intrigue there. Here, you had two girls, Sasha, who'd already done very well working with Charlotte, won the title and everything, but it was like, all right, let's see what she can do without Charlotte. And then you had Becky Lynch, who was really an unproven, and really a lot was, she had a lot to prove in this match. I'm not saying she was bad before this. I'm saying she really didn't have a solid stage to build off of until this match. They went out there and tore the house down, stole the show, had the best match of the night. Pretty much everybody said as much. It was just an outstanding match. One of the best matches I've seen all year, quite honestly. I really loved it. Sasha proved that she doesn't need Charlotte to be great. Becky Lynch proved she's just as good as the top girls on the brand. And it was just an outstanding athletic contest from start to finish. And the emotion in it afterwards, where Becky Lynch was crying and the fans were giving her a standing ovation and everything. And it was just really powerful stuff and just really great wrestling. And all the stuff that's great about professional wrestling was in it. It was in that match. It was just outstanding work from two outstanding talents, and they stole the show this month, as far as I'm concerned. So this is the first time I think I've given the best match of the month to a women's match, but they more than deserved it. And it's like, it's not good women's wrestling, it's good wrestling, and my hat's off to them. They did an outstanding job. And with all of that, it comes time to pick my brand of the month. What was my favorite wrestling brand for the month of May? I know I gave a lot of spots on the top 10 list to WWE, but like I said, they've got so much goddamn content. I mean, they kind of... I mean, you would think that they would dominate this list every month with the amount of content they have, but... Raw's hard to watch. Most of the pay-per-views, there's too many of them, so you lose track easily. So I don't think it's as consistently entertaining. I don't think the top 10 list really is a fair indicator of what the WWE brand as a whole is really like, or what their main programming is really like, because a lot of it is really forgettable. It just so happens this month they managed to put on at least 6 or 7 matches that were really entertaining and really interesting, but I wouldn't give them the brand of the month. Lucha Underground is still probably my favorite show to watch week to week, but if I had to award a brand of the month, it would be the WWE's, quote, developmental brand. I'm going to give it to NXT. Again, that slow and steady wins the race mindset, where they hold back in their build-ups. They typically hold back. They don't blow their load every week. And then when you get to these 2-hour specials, they deliver. And Unstoppable was a terrific show. It was the best show of the month, in my opinion. You had the Sasha-Becky match. You had the craziness in the main event with Samoa Joe making his debut. You had a really good opener between Balor and Breeze. A really good tag title match between Enzo and Cass and Murphy and Blake. And even the Corbin Rhino match wasn't bad. So and the Divas tag match wasn't bad either. So it was just a really well put together show. And in my opinion, like I said, the best special show of the month. And it was a 2-hour special. So it's really amazing how NXT is able to do that. It really put on a 2-hour show that beats most 3-hour shows. And I just love the format of the show and everything. But in addition to that, the NXT brand is really the popularity of the brand, and it's getting more and more recognition, to the point that NXT guys are showing up on WWE, on the main WWE show. Kevin Owens right now is probably the best part of the main WWE programming. and he's from NXT. He's the current NXT champion. Adrian Neville just debuted there, and right after Cena and Owens had their match, Adrian Neville and Bo Dallas, their next match, they were greeted with NXT chants, which was pretty awesome. I mean, the match itself wasn't that great, but it was pretty awesome that the crowd is getting more and more receptive to the NXT brand. Sami Zayn made his Raw debut. He's an NXT guy. So, there's talk that NXT is going to start touring. I think that's great. Wish them all the best. I'm sure it'll be very successful as long as they adhere to the format of 1-hour television shows and then quarterly specials, and they just keep doing what they're doing. I think NXT could keep this gravy train going for quite a while, because that's what really makes them so entertaining and makes them so fresh and exciting. It's the way it's booked, the way it's presented, and everything else in between. So, it's just a lot of outstanding stuff. So brand of the month definitely goes to NXT, and that is all I have for now in this massively long video, but I had a lot to get through, obviously. But I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will be back sometime this weekend with another video for you. So until then, stay tuned. But like I said before, check out thebrainosaur.com. The link is down below. And stay tuned for more future videos, because I'm going to keep pelting them out there at you. So be on the lookout for that. But until then, I will see you all later.